Before we go deeper into your story, Patrick, I'd love to ground a few core ideas that we'll be returning to throughout our conversation. For our listeners, how would you define flow state, especially in the context of learning music or creative skills?
Flow state is that groove that you find where you are just learning and growing, and you're right there in that pocket of you're not being too frustrated by the process or what you're learning, or you're not bored. You're right there. You're engaged in the present and you lose track of time. And there's a couple things that you need to get there, but that's ultimately what we feel is this groove of progress and joy at the same time.
How do you understand failure, not as a personal flaw, but as part of the learning process and the nervous system's adaptation?
It's inevitable. Failure is a part of the learning process. Not going to grow unless you fail. It's as simple as that. It's the only way we learn. How else could you consider? I can't conceive of any other way that we learn as beings besides repeated failure over and over and over. And so if we can reframe it that way and destigmatize it, it is not a failure on your end. It is not a personal flaw that you are failing over and over and over. If we can incorporate this into the learning process in a very organic, non-judgmental way, it simply is, then I think we've succeeded as pedagogists, as people that create curricula and methods of learning. If we can destigmatize failure, I think that is a massive goal for us.
I think it's really important. I often tell my clients that nothing you've ever, and this is very true, nothing you've ever learned to do in your entire life did you get it right the first time. Nothing.
No.
Not
Heck no.
walking, not
Right.
riding a bike, not doing a recipe, learning to cook, vacuuming a room. Like, it doesn't matter what you call out, you did not get it right the first time. So I think it's so important that we're having this conversation. It's so important that we call that out. What is self-directed learning and how does it differ from traditional instruction models?
We know the term autodidacts, people that love to learn on their own outside of curricula. They like to create their own curricula. They like to create their own way of learning. And I think that is really, really cool. And so self-directed learning is that process of digesting information, learning it, and then applying it on your own outside of the environments of a school or a classroom. There may be a teacher involved, but you're the one that's kind of in charge of how you want to progress in your pace. This isn't something that is, we're not punching down here. This is right at what you want, right? This is not all common denominators here. No, we are not creating a curricula for everybody. No, this is specifically for you, right? And I think that is, if you're one of those people that are internally motivated and create your own environments for learning, I think that's really cool. Some people need the guided curricula. Some people need the teacher. They need the external motivation. And that is also very okay. But in this context, self-directed learning is when you're taking it on yourself, saying, I really want to learn this, learning it, and then applying it.
How do you define performance pressure and what does it take? What does it do to creativity in the brain?
Oh my gosh, performance pressure. There's a lot that goes into it. Many different elements, right? We've got the audience's perception of how you're doing, what you're playing. It is your own internal monitoring of how you're doing, how you're playing, right? And then also your execution of it. What is the truth here? It's all very variable and it's all very colored by your own experience and what you perceive the audience is experiencing. And so if you can all of those together into one, you ball that up and you put it as a sort of metric of what you need to accomplish during the moment of performance, then that, in my mind, is what performance anxiety is and what performance pressure is. You're saying this is a standard of what I need to accomplish as a performer. And if you don't meet it, 90% of the time, you're not going to meet it. Just full disclosure. 90%, you're probably not going to meet your own personal standards. And so that is one of those things that I try to mitigate as much as possible. It is very difficult for me to. Having my own sort of judgment on my own experience of performing and what I think the audience needs and what they want. Yeah, it's very difficult. that sort of performance anxiety and performance pressure.
And finally, curiosity-based learning. Why does curiosity matter so much for long-term growth and confidence?
Long-term growth and confidence. I think if you're not curious about what you're learning, you can never really dive deep enough into it. You've got to have that internal motivation, right? You've got to be curious about the topic at hand. And if you're not, then like it's all just going to wash over and you're not going to really digest it or internalize it in any possible way. So long-term growth and long-term satisfaction, it comes from being curious in the moment and going through your own curricula or your own experience of what you want to learn and how you want to learn it, or following the curricula itself and being absolutely engaged with the process and the method and the teacher and the information. If you're not curious in the moment, you're not going to find that fulfillment later.
Thank you for slowing that down. This shared language really helps us to set the tone. Now